Hello. I hope you can hear me. This is Luana, and this will be the first time that I really have talked with you all. And I hope that I'm technically in in uh, in mode so that you can hear what I say. Um, it's been really a year of reflection for me because some new kinds of ways of thinking and assessing my living and assessing the world and how it operates. And much of what I'm going to share with you, basically, we don't talk about. Um, it is evident that we are unaware of the true working of the system we live in, uh, and that's Earth. As far as we know, that we're part of a larger uh, area, but the place we really know about is is Earth. And since we live here, this experience is very important because it's the only experience we know, and it is a very uplifting thing to know that all of this that we are experiencing is available to us to experience and to respond to. So, I'm going to talk about how I respond to it and what that means to me. Um, First of all, the subject that you see, who am is, that is just to remind us that there, as you look at me, you see something, but outside of what you see is what I really am. And I am a gazillion conglomerate of some energy or some substance that we can't see. So the only reason you're seeing me is because the gazillions of whatever it is that compound themselves into this mass that you're looking at is only available if that mass multiplies enough or impacts enough of itself to produce a visible me. That's a lot to take in. That's a lot to just think about. And we don't think about it because we are so limited, which is much of what we don't understand or know, is that we are very limited because on Earth, it's one system and experience out of whatever else is in this universe of millions and gazillions and trillions of entities. And we are limited to really the earth, and we respond to where we are based upon the knowledge we have created out of the experience we're having here. So who is something that makes me up. And when I enter into this realm of the earth system through birth, uh, we start labeling immediately. I'm called a baby. And throughout my experience in life, everything that we come in contact with, known and unknown, we label. And our system, because of those labels, uh, sets us up for living a certain way. if I'm given the label of teacher, then I have prepared all that I need to prepare to teach according to the system. Uh, my motherhood comes through having a child come through my birth canal and be born. But if I look at all of this system and all of these labels, um, I'm seeing a lot of problems with the labels that we give ourselves and how we hold ourselves accountable for those labels just because the system and society that we are set up in says we should. And we don't deviate. That's a pretty powerful piece right there that we obey what we're told to obey. And when I looked over the last couple of years of who runs things, I came up with something that I think you will agree with me, or at least you will think about. In this system where we have 7.6 billion people on in this system, the world system, the Earth, 7.6 billion people live here. Those are the counted ones. Of course, there are persons who have not been counted, who have not divulged themselves to what we call the human system that we live in. They are hidden. So basically, that 7.6 billion people is only what we have access to count, because many are not recorded. Out of those, in the earth that we live in, we have what the research shows us is about 80 families that have more of the wealth of this world system than all the other people combined. So if you think about it, and you got say 10 people, and only two of them control all the money, who is in charge? Since this system runs on economics, then the two people that have the wealth are going to run it, and they run it depending on how they want to run it. And what we see is a repetitive behavior in the people who have mass money. That power that goes with that seems to mesmerize them. Now that's according to the media, because many of the people who control, we never see them. We never know their names or any of that. But we know the money is what makes it all go around. And we are the persons who are managed by the money because we don't have it. So if the two people that control the other eight continue to have the money, doesn't that give them power over the eight? Because we don't have it. So who do we have to look to for it? Is the two. Am I right about that? Now, we don't have access to their money. They give it to us according to how they feel about it or what their agenda is, or it seems in this system that they want to just increase the wealth. So if the wealth keeps increasing, then the power keeps increasing along with that. And that's what we see. Um, so if I'm in the eight and I have to look to the two for my sustenance and my maintaining this lifestyle, then I really am powerless. The beauty of what I see is because media can only cover a limited amount of this system, we don't really see the true picture of how we're operating. I would think that even though two out of 10 control all the money, That's the known too. I think there are many that are not known only because media cannot cover, but a very minute number of people on this planet. And what they have done with us is they have mesmerized us into globalizing everything. So if they say two people are bad out of 10, we focus on the two people that are bad out of 10, not the eight that they're not showing us that are probably doing well and have good stories to tell that will uplift us. Because when we look at the media, it doesn't have good news. It has news, but it doesn't have good news. And the news I hear as I look at my phone, I'm just amazed at what they talk about. I think somebody was talking, they had something on there that said somebody was having a discussion about bathing their children and how often they should bathe. Why do I need to know that? And people look at that and discuss it. It becomes a topic of conversation, and the media knows that. So they wrap us up in mesmerizing us with uh, information that really is not going to impact our lives in a positive way. And it distracts us to the point that we have no other conversation other than what they're telling us. So we can't concentrate on how do we work in this system that is controlled by two people, and I'm one of the eight. So if the two people if the media keeps me uh, con- concentrated on the two people, I will not try to navigate in this system with some other resources that the media is not going to tell us about, but it's there. And you see the evidence of people living well and reaching the goals and things that they have set. But the media will not talk about that. So as a result of that, we don't think about it and we don't see it as valuable. But Hulam is one of the eight that are controlled by this system. However, since they don't put the spotlight on me, it gives me some latitude to navigate within the system. And that I do have the power to do that to some degree. I may not be one of the two, but I am one of the eight. And since the media is not really talking about me, they don't really know much of what I'm doing. And so it makes people looking at the two and the media, how they portray them, as the only thing that's important is them. So they treat me accordingly, that I don't really have that much importance. And they evaluate me based upon some money or power that I have to some degree. If they reach and get me, it's because it is going to enable them to get me in the media circle and also in the economic circle. But if not, they won't touch me. They'll just allow me as long as I am in the eight, they're okay. Because that means their money is not going to be touched. And they keep recycling my mind and my resources so that they continue to have power and economics. That's why the drugs are in our area. That's why the guns are in our area, because they put them in there so they can, one, control, and the second is create an environment where economics is at the bottom rather than at the top of how we operate in this system. So we'll be on that in the poverty group, and we will be struggling all the time because they've got our minds that they're the only source. And so we should hear them and believe them. And subliminally, what they are doing is keeping us at that bottom so that they can stay at that top. And we are, if we get it, we it's not known, it's not shown. But I think, and my hope is, and my experience has been that we can do pretty good in the system even as it is. I am I am who I am. The labels don't describe me. I think Marshall Rosenberg in his uh, nonviolent communication book wrote about that basic of the human being is compassion. Now, when I'm born into this world and I'm called a human being, the being part is what I'm supposed to do. But the labels tell me this being is supposed to do what the labels tell me to do. And so I operate rather than being a being, I become a doing. What do you do? And I am equated by what I do. I'm evaluated by what I do. And I'm evaluated by my economic base within that realm. I get I get better treatment when I am a professional. I get better treatment when I have money. I get better treatment when I speak eloquently, and uh, I'm allowed in certain circles based upon having those things. So as a result of that, many people want those things because they want to be in a circle different than the one that they're in. We divide and we conquer each other. So the people the two don't really have to do a lot because we self destruct in the area that we're in, many of us. And they cite only those that are self destructing. So you're not going to see most of the people, period. You're not going to have a truth about how the people that the media doesn't show are operating. You're not going to have the truth of that other than you get on a on one. And if you assess your environment, you'll see that I I mean, don't most of us feel safe until the media tells us we're not safe. Most of us feel like we're adequately taking care of our families, and the media tells us that we're not because they're going to show those that are not, and we take that suit on. And we feel like they know what's in they know what's in our houses, and they don't. They predict because they have so much power and so much authority and so much money that they write the script. And guess what? They get us to follow it. So when we step outside and they can't get a handle on why, then the microscope increases, the depth of the microscope increases, and then you have people who will lead and get the microscope on them because the people, the two, don't want you to ever try to come into that two. They want you to stay in the eight. And basically, they're going to show that. So our optimism is low because we read the two report rather than get involved on a one-to-one basis and in community organizations and uh, church organizations to see if when we're in those settings how we feel and how do we how do we share with each other the beauty of those relationships that we have that the media is not going to report. I like to watch Steve Harvey uh, because I see so many wonderful stories on Steve Harvey about people who have set goals. The media is not telling the stories. Steve Harvey is a famous man who really has embraced human beings. And he talks about his own story of how he got to be where he is. But there are many Steve Harveys out there who, with a lot of money, that the media is not going to talk about what they do in a positive way for the larger number, for the eight. They're not going to talk about that. So Steve got enough money to talk about it himself. And there are others who have that kind of power and money. Tyler Perry is another one who has some of the stars like Denzel. They have the money to do exactly what they want to do. They've chosen to put a spotlight on the eight to some degree so that we can see the reality of what we live. And they do that. So when we see that, then it helps us to understand if they're doing it, then they're maybe we need to search out and see, how much we're involved in believing about the two than we are about searching for the eight, and how many uh, places are operating like Tyler Perry, and how can we help in community organizations that help youngsters learn uh, and become a part of the productive side of the planet that the two are not going to talk about. They talk on a level of finance and power that totally excludes us. We're not invited to the table. We can't even open the door. So, since that's the reality of what we live in, we still should be able to navigate it. If we just look at the reality of what is, media is not going to show you the real world. You're not going to see the real world. You're going to see fragments that divide, fragments that create a non-positive environment, fragments that created hopelessness, divisiveness, all of that you're going to see on the media. And if we ingest that 24/7, guess what? We're not going to even realize we in it. We think it's the real deal. And we never stop to think about how many times we've been in this setting and we don't feel afraid all the time. How many meals are we eating that we're eating? How many stores are we going into to replenish ourselves? We don't think about that. We think about the gories that the media is telling us. So instead of concentrating on we're doing okay, we don't even realize we're doing okay because the media tells we're not going to do it okay because they show the not okay, and we've taken it on. We've globalized it and we personalized it. So who is who I determine I am. Labels don't give us anything other than more divisiveness, more class system, more prejudice. I remember we went to a musical event, and it was way back before men really wore dreadlocks. So I was looking at this young man who was on the stage as the orchestra was preparing. And I said, he must be the cleanup guy. He must have to make sure the chairs are all in place and all of the things that the orchestra will need because it's a large orchestra. Um, he will be. He's the custodian that will supply them. Guess who he was? He was the major conductor for the orchestra, and the piece they were going to perform, he composed it. I looked at him and decided to label him because the society tells me back in that day you didn't wear dreadlocks. And if you did, the media showed a dreadlock person with drugs and guns. And robbing people and all of that. They didn't show a composer with dreadlocks. They didn't show a composer who could conduct an orchestra. So I bought it, like most of us do. It never occurred to me that that young man was not the custodian setting up the chairs for the orchestra. It never occurred to me that he was the person they were featuring. So don't you see how that's playing out today? They're not going to talk about the people who are in the eight that uh, serve, that create, that make changes. They're not going to talk about those because they don't want us to know that side of it. They want us to know about the person with the dreadlocks that's robbing and going in stores taking stuff that they can film now. It wants to know about those. And we're not careful, we're ingesting that 24/7. There's no way for us to avoid taking it in and materializing it in the way we behave in our community. That's it. That's us. And they are master controllers because of that. We go on Black Friday and buy. Black folks, cash, credit, you can have anything. And instead of us really understanding who is benefiting from that, not me, not you, because most of us shop outside of our our ability because they give us these credit cards and these debit cards, and they got us in control. I used to look at people when they were managing their money and they say, I don't buy it if it's on credit. Unless it's a major thing like a house or a car, I don't buy it. And if I have worked and really realized that I'm planning for my future, then when I get ready to buy something uh, as large as a house or car, if I pay it early enough, I can pay cash. We don't save money. We don't invest. Uh, we don't. We're not trained in a many ways uh, to look at things economically because now we're living longer, and I think there's a little more emphasis on us looking at you got to stretch that money out and how you doing it. So the young people really are getting it, and a lot of the communities and organizations are thank God for media because the only way we are seeing some of the real stuff is through media that is not controlled by the major networks. So we're getting information from community groups. They're doing Zoom meetings and they're doing different kind of events that we can attend or else get the information concerning them. So there's a lot more information out about the eight out of the 10 than we ever had before. So now it's opening up to the that we can get a better look at the reality of where we live and not from the media that's talking about the 2% that got all the power and the money that don't include us and we don't still so we don't know about us, and so we have to now understand that outside of the media there are places where we can search and be involved and learn. It's a lot of good information, a lot of good organizations, and you see the evidence of that. And when we had the major march after Floyd died, that the community for change and the community for uh, making new were a diverse group of young people. They all over the world. I've never seen that before, and so that's the real world. And the only reason you got a chance to see that is because that was all that was happening. So media capitalized on that like they do everything else. Um, so we saw a lot more of in a surprise fashion for me because uh, I wouldn't have seen that 30 years ago, 40 years, that kind of diversity. We saw some in Martin Luther King's marches of diversity. It was there, and even when in slavery, uh, a lot of the people who helped us were non-blacks. We don't see much of that. It's in the history books. If we look at it closely, orchestrated by most black people who have done the research. Because white folks ain't gonna tell you your beauty and your value because that keeps you in the eight if you don't know. So we want to know, and the truth does make you free. And we perish for lack of knowledge. And knowledge is out here, but we have to research it, and we are researching it. And my appeal to you is that you make yourself visible more in the accomplishments of life, and that uh, the people that have all of the money and the power don't stop you from reaching some goals. You see blacks in school, you see blacks in places that we never would have seen them in 40, 50 years ago. And some of you were not born when things were very different. So in the eight, and I talk about two and eight because it makes it easier for me to describe the dynamics of what I'm talking about. In the eight, we are there, and many things that were not available to us just for knowledge and proper information is there. But we still have to search it out, and we have every mechanism now to search it out. So, my appeal to you is you determine who you are, and the labels do not determine you, they just classify you. And be careful that we don't allow those classifications to separate us rather than incorporate us. Uh, Doctors run with doctors, lawyers run with lawyers, and some of the people who are educated will see themselves at a higher level than another individual that is non-educated. Those labels we have to be very careful with that they don't distort our humanness. My father was a wonderful guy who was friends to everybody, the drunk on the corner as well as the minister in the pulpit and the professional lawyers and all of that business people. And I like that about him because what it did for the people I saw that were relating to him is it uplifted them. And so I want to be a person that can really uplift and encourage at this season of my life. I want to do that, but I want us to look at some realities that we have allowed to be here, and we've bought into some realities that are not our realities, but the realities of the system that we live in is set that we don't step out of the eight into the two. And that's where we see it everywhere. If we look around, that we don't really see us, we see them, and that's uh, the two that control everything. So since that's a given, we can navigate into the system, and we can make things much more visible on the level that we are, so that we can encourage each other and we can help each other, which is already happening, but it's just harder when you can't see it. Uh, our relationship with God, we can't see Him. So there's always this battle that we are in quest of something we can't see, or we can't have communication like we do as humans with, even though we can have communication, but it's at another level. That's a difficult thing for us as human beings. So we have to learn how to do that and learn how to appreciate it and believe it. We believe what we're told. There's no way for anybody that's on the planet, in my estimation of in my experience, to know anything, because everyone who perceives of anything is told by someone else. And so, if I'm brought up in a certain kind of home, I believe traditionally what I'm taught in that home. That's why we so hard on each other when we have differences, and we forget. If I'm in a home that is Jewish, if I'm in a home that is Arabic, if I'm in a home that's black, that's three different sets of dynamics that I'm raised in, and basically I'm taught out of this system of labels, and each group has all their labels, and then we we over the 10, 20 years we've developed into whatever that home told us we supposed to develop into and be, and we believe that. So everything is out of belief and perspective. It's not out of knowing, because we can't know. We're restricted because we're here, and we don't even know. We don't know is not in the vocabulary. It's belief. I believe this because I was taught that, and even if I'm taught it, if someone else presents their beliefs to me, I can decide I like that better and it works better for me. And so I'll learn how to believe that. But there's no knowing anything, nothing is known. We believe, we perceive, and we base our lives based on that. So, where's our argument? There shouldn't be any, because we don't know, none of us know nothing. And our perception is based upon what environment we come out of and what has impacted us in that environment and other environments has made us, the spirit part of us, what it is. And so nobody knows anything. No, okay, when you say experts, there are no experts. They're, they got a little information, and that is extremely limited. Do you know, when you look at how much we know about just this universe that we talk about all the time, it's a grain of sand. That's all this information we think is big. It's a grain of sand, because if you look at what we've been able to have access to and study, and then when we study it, the only information we have to study it with is information we on this planet have established. But it's for Earth. It doesn't apply to the universe because that's all we have. We're on Earth. It doesn't apply to the universe. We have our control here to the extent that we do because we're here. But we don't know anything, and we are very limited in the knowledge of what we say we know that we don't know. We believe. We believe there's a God or not. We believe our different religions or not. That's it. And the right and wrong of things, I have to be very careful about that because I understand my limitations. I think the common denominator for me is not a title or label, but something inside of me that wants me to connect to others and connect to others in a certain way. And and that's what we have labeled as love. Love is not a tangible, but my experience in it can bring joy to myself and others. Those are the, how can you say you know when you can't even, love is outside of our reach in terms of describing what it is. we act upon something from within us that allows us to have a certain expression to another human being. We've labeled that love. And that seems to be a central thing in mankind that we operate in, that makes us feel the value of humanness. And it's consistent throughout all the cultures, all the different religions, all the different classes. There's a consistency of humanness within us that causes us want to be together, want us to harmonize, unify, have a good relationship. What we call good, another label, a relationship that's amiable and profitable for both everybody involved. So my solicitation to you in the theme that I talked about, who am who am is an essence of beauty for me that I want to share with others. I don't want it to be because you're a doctor or a lawyer. I want it to be back to what I came into this world as a human being. I want to be me. I want to be who I'm is me. Me is made up of physical conglomerate of I can't even describe how many billions of cells this entity that you look at is made up of, and each is an individual cell has come together, and out of that product is one of a kind, and that's me and you. That's a marvelous kind of thing to look at. So when we look at value, it's not about being a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher. It's about being this thing that we have labeled as creation, a God that we've chosen to name him or not, that has made this creation. And in this creation is a phenomenal system that we can enjoy without the need to understand or uh, find quote unquote answers, because you can't answer the unanswerable. We we satisfy ourselves somehow in the claiming to know or claiming to be an expert. It seems to be some kind of internal satisfaction about that to create a balance within us. But we can live uh, in much better harmony, I believe, if we look at the basic human being, and it's one of a kind. So that makes us really special to me. That out of all these billions of cells that make up Luana, there's only one Luana. And whoever it is that I'm talking to are going to share in this, um, it's one of you. And so, in seeking out who I'm is, can we get back to get to or make more visible the eight that are living in the real world that has most people not gazillionaires? It's only two that's gazillionaires, and it's many people in the two that are great people that give, that their lives are dedicated to helping others. Media is not going to show them either, because most of media that's shown is the greed and the divisiveness and the hatred and the uh, trying to outdo. Now they're trying to outdo themselves and going to the space of preserving humankind frozen. That's the nature of humanness. And the people with the money, they are the only ones that can buy that kind of knowledge to them. But that's the realm we most don't live in. And so let us enjoy, but get back to taking a real look at who we are who is in the eight. Uh, there are wonderful examples of humanness in the eight as well as the two. But the difference in them is the two media is going to concentrate on the two that basically is the sensationalism of the news of killing and fighting and talking against people and calling them all kind of names because that's they feed us what they want us to eat and we eat it because we don't have any source other than that we think other than shutting it off. So that means if I shut it off, then I have to find some other way of finding out what's going on or making myself knowledgeable. Much of what's going on doesn't involve me anyway. According to what I've been able to see, it hasn't changed my life. And my father trained me that you're your source, you and God. We happen to be Christian. And so that was the source by which he talked about. He said, God will provide, but you have to do some work too. And we were raised like that. So we became productive human beings. My sons and daughters have become productive human beings and contributors to the planet based upon that. And they are human beings. They have positions, but they don't see that as a reason to not be sociable and kind and helpful to other human beings. And that's the way I think a lot of us operate. But of course, we don't see that, so we assume it doesn't exist, but it does. But we have to be more connected in finding it. We have to be more connected in um, sharing it, more connected in supporting it. And the knowledge of that is that it's there. We have to do a little more to find it, and we have to be in. I'm really encouraged by what I have discovered outside of main media, which I don't look at. My phone flashes and I can see certain things on that, but deep stories about all of the things that are happening, and most of it, if when I just scroll my phone a little bit, there's not a positive item there that I can say, things are better or things are uplifting. There's not there. So as a result of that, I restrict myself from looking at that, and I turn on something like Steve Harvey, who's going to show people who are really contributing to each other, doing things out of this plain love, which is the entity that I talked about that seems to connect us all in nature. When we look at nature, we feel that, and that feeling and connection with nature is the essence of who I am. To me, my perspective of that is I see nature as beautiful because I'm beautiful. And I'm honoring it as it honors uh, the creator. Whatever allows us to be uh, is an entity that uh, is beyond any comprehension that I have to. I mean, it may not be beyond the comprehension. It may be that to answer the unanswerable is a waste of time. We are we have an acquiring humanness, but my inquiry is just to keep me busy because I will never have a knowing of anything. Uh, I will have a good time in looking at what is here in order to really be amazed by it. I don't think it's really there for any other thing, just to be amazed by it, by discovering how things work and are put together according to the limitations we face and the joy of that. That's why nature looks so beautiful. We didn't create, we didn't have an act in that. It's not like building a house or building a record set or anything. It's we look at nature and it already is there to tell us something. And for some reason, I think it's that we are it, that it honors where it is and honors what is happening to us. And I think when we look at nature, we can identify that if we let all of the dogma of the system go, that's where we become more encompassed in the beauty of what we are too, part of nature, a living organism that we have called human beings. Uh, there's there's things in nature that are part of us and we are part of them, and things that they have, we have. It's like trees and that they communicate. We communicate, so we're part of that, not separated from that. We have a different vantage point to our knowledge, and as we learn more and more about it, we're more like the things that we're studying than not, and we encompass a lot of the whatever the elements are in nature, in us. So as we look at who is, determine that based upon your establishment, and don't, maybe you can avoid the labels and work more on the humanness that we share as human beings, the love and the compassion and empathy and caring for others. That the eight the eight can't impact that. We can do that where we are, and that's what I would hope would happen for us. Now I did this almost an hour talking. I just hope it can be heard. I don't know whether I had to turn a microphone on. Oh, it's on. So I guess so. But if not, I will have shared what I'm going to do once a month. Just think of us how to look at life. Uh, some add some food for thought that maybe we haven't thought about that we can think about and will add to our quality of life. Uh, so as I end, I'm going to say this position. It's called the lotus position. It says, "Be still, watch silently, and listen intently. Do not be disturbed by what you see or hear. Watch your thoughts go through your mind, see them come and go like clouds gently passing across the sky. Make no investment in your perception, for moment by moment, each formation takes another shape. There's no need to fix or change. There's no need to analyze. There's no need to criticize. There's no need to figure things out. Stay in the detached present, centered in uncertainty. Be happy." I came across that some time ago and it just fits for me. Stay in the uncertainty of the moment. Just be happy. Decide that. Don't make a perception in what you see or hear because you don't have that. What you see or hear is just to the extent you can see and hear in the knowledge that we have as human beings. So don't make any investment in that because moment by moment things change. Each formation takes another shape. It does. And so if we live in that moment where we know there are changes coming, we're going to get so absorbed in the future because today is all we have. The moment I'm inhaling and exhaling right now is all I have. So learning how to live in that, it's been a joy for me. And I have to do that every day because of the outside exterior influences that impact my life. I have to concentrate more on me being in charge of my thoughts and my environment based upon what I decide to take in and what I decide to, not to take in. Keeping in mind that much of the data that comes into me is so much that my subconscious mind will record it, and but my conscious mind is not orchestrated to record it, so I won't be able to record it. And I mean, I can record it subliminally or my subconscious, but I can't take that much data in with my conscious mind. But it will be recorded and used at whatever time is to be used or triggered, however the body works, which I don't know, have a clue. Yes, I'm just in awe of it, and I want to be in awe of it, but I want to know more about what has been written and discovered in this limited space we have and limited knowledge that we have. What are some of the thoughts on who I'm is and why I'm is, and I want to be involved in that, and I can. I'm 85 years old, and I'm happier now than I have ever been. And so I'm just grateful for some of the knowledge that I feel I'm getting that will enhance this experience and accept it. Uh, I don't have a problem with that, the fact that I don't know. And I don't think there is a knowing. I think there is a believing. And I think there's a perspective from each of us of how we see how the things around us. I think that's there. Uh, but knowing, I don't see how there's any way to know anything. I can buy into believing because most of what we claim we know, somebody else has told us. And we decide what are we going to do with the information that's been imparted to us. And I like that part is that we've learned a lot from just sharing. And that makes me know that the eight are busy supporting, the eight are busy giving information and making changes. A lot of the changes that are occurring now, based out of the new movement of these young people that are going to discover ways to make the system better, change the laws so that the system provides more for more people, have us open to discovering things that are available to us that we may not have had privy to before. I think information is what's going to allow us to do a lot of the things we haven't, but we have to seek it. You have to seek it and you'll find it. But if you don't seek it, it may just ride on by you, but somebody else will get it. Uh, so, young people, uh, I am proud to be a part of your 21st century because, because I come from rotary dial time. And you don't have a clue about how that operates, but I can learn to live in the 21st century, which you have made better for me out of the knowledge you have gained and the resources that you've made available to me to make my life enhanced at 85. Uh, Look at me on Facebook. I can text and that kind of thing that wasn't available to me 50 years ago. Uh, Not even a cell phone. I had to write a note and have the kids run down the street and give it to a neighbor because we didn't have phones or we couldn't afford them. So I am going to be signing off, and I thank you for this glorious time of sharing. And I would like to find out from you what you would like me to, what issues are in your life that you would like to have some dialogue about. So have a nice night and be encouraged and be safe.